How do you actually become the best version of yourself? That is a question that I've asked myself a bunch of times throughout my life because I've been on like a self-improvement journey for I think probably like 5 years now. Yeah, it's been about 5 years. I'm 19 now and I started when I was around 14. And I always wanted to level up. And I've read so many books on this topic. I've watched countless YouTube videos and I've spent hours and hours kind of procrastinating while trying to find out how to improve myself and not actually taking action, but like informing myself about the topic. You know what I'm saying? If that sounds familiar to you, then I hope that this video is going to help you, because today I'm going to give you steps on how to improve yourself and how to actually change your life within the next few months. And I'm not saying this is a quick fix, because it's not. Self-improvement is a journey and it takes time because you need to grow as a person. And what I always tell myself is a flower doesn't grow in just a few days. You have to water it, you have to look after it, you have to take care of it. And maybe at some point it'll get some kind of disease and you have to fix it and you have to keep nourishing and nurturing it. And then eventually a beautiful flower grows, but it doesn't grow in just one day. And it's not easy. And that is also the experience I've made. I'm now happier than I've ever been before. I am the best version of myself, and I really, true-heartedly want you to experience that as well. Just a quick backstory on myself so that you can maybe relate. For the last couple of years, I've been really struggling with depression and struggling with anxiety as well. I've had times where I really isolated myself because I felt really disconnected from the world essentially and from people, and I felt really estranged, and that was also due to some trauma, and I think we all carry our packages. I don't have to explain everything to you in order for you to understand what I'm saying, but basically, just to sum it up, I've been in a bad place for years, and I tried to get out of it. I got really into self-improvement. I read a lot of books on the topic and I really wanted to change. I did a lot of research and there was just this really strong desire inside my heart to change. But I never had the tools. I was lacking the action part, basically. So I didn't know what exactly to do. I knew where I wanted to be in the end. I had this vision of myself that I'm sure all of you have, some kind of version of myself that I could visualize, that I just wanted to become, you know? Someone who was compassionate, someone who was confident, someone who was doing great career-wise, who was following a path that was actually like aligned with my soul. And a couple of months prior to now, I was so lost. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I was addicted to instant gratification. I spent hours and hours on TikTok, on my phone. I also had like struggles with like binge eating and stuff. And yeah, basically I was what you would consider mediocre, but I was doing horrible. I went to college and from the outside everything was looking good, but in reality I wasn't doing so well. So why am I telling you all this? I think that my story is not just some, you know, random example. I think that in a way I was really common. Although I felt like I was the weirdest person on the planet and I felt really distanced from others, I think this is something that we're all experiencing right now. There's an epidemic of loneliness going on right now. People are feeling disconnected. Although we're more connected than ever before, we are actually really lacking true, genuine connection. And why is that? I think a big problem is this whole media thing. Social media is a very shallow place, and I will do more videos on that topic because it really it just gets me every time. But it's just a symptom of our society. In our society, mediocrity and fitting in is worshipped. We like people who are like us. It's the similar to me effect. There's a lot of evidence on it. We like people who are similar to us. And so people who are mediocre and not really outstanding in any kind of way, they're liked. And people who are really driven, people who are maybe a little bit unusual or living an unusual lifestyle, they're quickly considered as a bit odd, as a bit weird. And I think that's really sad, because what I think is making us so sad in our society is this mediocrity. A lot of us don't have a drive. We don't have a passion. We don't have a way or like a goal that we're aiming towards. And this is possibly the worst thing. Why? Because as humans, we need meaning. Life is suffering in the end. It's full of pain, it's unpredictable, it's uncontrollable, and ultimately bad things are going to happen. Bad things are happening all the time. There's inequality, there is tragedy, there is illness. You know, life is full of tragedy. And we need a way to cope with that. And the only way for us to deal with this inevitable suffering is to find a meaning. And I think that in our society today, we're so safe and so comfortable that we don't need a passion, we don't need a meaning. We are simply existing. We're living a pleasure-seeking lifestyle. So we're living from weekend to weekend, from party to party. We are drowning our problems in our drugs of choice. Some people are really prone to alcohol. Some people are prone to, spending hours on social media. Some people are binge eaters, whatever. We're choosing our ways to cope with our emotions, and we're not really addressing what is going on beneath that. And I think the real problem that we're having right now is this meaninglessness in our lives. And in order for you to find the best version of yourself, you have to find a meaning. And meaning cannot be pursued by living a mediocre lifestyle. You're not going to meet your goals. You're not going to become your highest self if you are mediocre. You will never influence the world by trying to be like it. If you fit in too well, and if you try constantly to please people and to, connect with a load of people and to just, merge yourself into a version of yourself that is liked, you're never gonna be your best self. In order for you to be your best self, you have to leave behind this comfortable, people-pleasing, pleasure-seeking lifestyle. In order for you to find meaning, you have to leave behind your old environment. And I'm going to give you a few steps on how to actually do that, because I think this is what you want from this video and what is really to gain from this video. So, what I just basically told you about is that society has become weak. We have become mediocre and we're totally fine with it. We're not even aware of it. We think that we're doing our very best when actually we're just living at 40% of our potential. When you're walking across the street and you see people, odds are that probably 95% of them are not being anywhere close to being the best version of themselves. So how do we become the best version of ourselves? Drastic change requires drastic change. In order for you to change your life, you have to change your behavior and you have to change your identity. And how to do that is to basically completely rethink the way you go about life. So what I did, I started with reading the book Atomic Habits. It's a book on how to basically, it teaches you about habits and about how they basically lead and control our whole life. And then I analyzed the habits that I had and that were making me miserable, because I had a load of habits that kept me at this really, average version of myself, this miserable, depressed version of myself that was somehow working in society, but actually really miserable in private. I had a load of habits. Like, for example, I would do my schoolwork and then I would go home and I would just binge on YouTube videos for hours. And I would feel horrible about myself. And I really didn't connect the dots before. But when I read Atomic Habits, I started to realize that these few hours in the evening where I was watching those videos, they were pulling me down. They were killing my mental health because I didn't consume inspiring videos. I was literally trying to just block out my thoughts while consuming pointless TikTok videos. So I analyzed those habits, and then the book also teaches you how to change those habits and how to implement new habits. So basically, I thought about that version of myself that I wanted to become. And here, something's really important. You have to clearly line out every single thing that you want to be. Have a vision of yourself, have a clear vision of your highest self, because you want to become that version. So you actually have to have an idea who that is. You can't just go around and say, oh, I want to be the highest version of myself, and you don't even have a clue who that person is. Really make a list with character traits. How does that person carry themselves? How does that person speak? How do they act? What are their mannerisms? And then start showing up as that person. And for me, that started with developing the habits of that person. So I started by implementing a routine that the best version of myself would have. I mapped out every single hour of my day. And I know that sounds extreme, but as I said, we have to go into the extremes to actually change. So I wrote out everything that I did, that I wanted to do in the day. And I said to myself, if you reach those goals, if you're able to achieve this, and if you stick to the plan, then you're being the best version of yourself. And so every evening I would write down what I would do the next day. And I still do this to this day. And then I go about those things that I wrote down the next day. And I know exactly what I need to do. And then I started really, once I started to implement those habits, that's a really nice thing, they become easier and easier. In the beginning, you need a lot of motivation and discipline to actually stick to those habits. But once you become used to them, once you do those things so often that they're like reinforced over and over and over again, they become automatic. You don't even need any thoughts anymore. They become automatic and you go about them every single day. And slowly but surely, your life, the life of that version of yourself that you don't like and that you want to grow out of, the life of that person who is not fulfilling their potential, and the life of that best version of yourself, they're merging. So you get closer and closer and closer, and eventually those two persons, they will merge, and you will be the highest version of yourself. That is how to go about it. Look at your habits. Analyze why you're not meeting your potential. And I promise you, maybe right now you're saying to yourself, I'm not that bad. I'm reaching my potential. Oh, honey, there are a million things that you could change in order to become better, in order to level up. There is so much unfulfilled potential inside of you. And I'm telling you this, I am still not at the highest potential ever. There's still room for me to grow, but just the progress that I've made within a few months of implementing those things that I just told you about, I'm changed. I can do so much more. I can do things that I never thought I was capable of doing. So, to sum it up, in order for you to be the highest version of yourself, you have to outgrow this mediocre, miserable version of yourself. And in order for you to do that, you need to go all in. There's no excuses. There's no, oh, I'll do this a little bit and then I'll get back to like what I used to do. You have to be committed to this lifestyle, because it's not about doing something, it's about becoming someone. And so you have to change your whole identity, the whole way you go about life. And the self-improvement journey is a lonely journey, because as I said, people like people who are similar to them, and you'll outgrow your environment. Of course you will. You cannot heal in the environment you got sick in. That's also a quote that I find really inspiring. You'll leave people behind. You'll lose friendships. And there will be times where you sit by yourself and think, wow, was it worth it? And the answer to that should always be, and you should always remind yourself and remember this, it is worth it. Because ultimately, the reason why we're being here is to fulfill a meaning, is to find our passion, to find our drive. And you cannot find that drive and that burning passion, and you cannot do your best if you're not the highest version of yourself. And so you will outgrow people. Maybe you're perhaps even like your closest friends, your closest family, will have to leave some of that behind. But the most important person in your life is still you. There will be sacrifices, but it'll ultimately all be worth it. I hope that this video was helpful to you, and I see you guys in the next video. Bye.